Hello, and welcome to that time of the week where I talk all about what Tinto Talks has been talking about throughout the week. Today, we're going to be talking about the Saturday building, the Tinto Maps thread on the beautiful British Isles, as we can see here, and also the cabinets system that we learned about on Wednesday. But before we get into any of that, obviously to go through the basics, I gotta ask you to subscribe to the channel. If you want to stay up to date and informed on everything Project Caesar is coming out with, then this is the best place to do it. And you sub, I get a sub, you stay informed, I get a number to go up a bit more. It's a win-win, really. So, yeah, with that out of the way, let's get into today's topics. First off, we have the Saturday building. This is the Nobility Fortification. This is a building that the nobles can build on their own if they have the fortification licenses estate privilege. It costs here 83.87 stability to revoke it. Bear in mind, stability goes from minus 100 to positive 100, and the cost of this depends on your crown power, as we'll see in a moment. This is a building that doesn't add a fortification to a location. It's not something that is creating a castle. This just improves the defensiveness of a castle that you already have in that location. So this is basically a castle add-on. It does, however, require some maintenance to keep the bonuses going and increases the noble's power quite significantly. But let's go into seeing what Johan has got to say about it. Of course, it can only build if they granted him the following estate privilege. Though I will say it would be nice if on here somewhere it said allows nobles to build nobility fortifications with a little, I don't know, building symbol. That would be nice to see there. But moving down to get rid of them, you have to destroy them manually, which you can do where the control is high, but each destroyed estate building reduces their estate satisfaction. So you're probably not going to want to do it too terribly much, though we have been told in this this post that nobles are something that we're going to learn to dislike quite a bit. What if the market doesn't have enough resources to maintain all of the buildings? What will the estate maintenance be prioritized over the estate buildings? So priority is this. Location is by market access, so the location that has the highest market access will get the goods rather than the ones that you potentially think are more important. And for every location, buildings are prioritized in order of being built. So that is something that we've just learned now. This is not something we've known of before, but I don't know. That seems kind of arbitrary to me. It's, I guess, an easy way for the game to determine what priority buildings should be in. Maybe cost of building maybe could be a different one, but it does need to be something. It's just the first time we're learning about what that something is going to be. As I said before, crown power is what determines the stability cost of revoking privileges. And the nobles will not be building this nobility fortification after the first age of the game. This is going to be a very early building. Whether these are just completely demolished as soon as we enter the second age, I don't think that's the case. They just won't build any new one. And here they are not forts, they are buildings that augment and improve the defenses. So I don't think they're going to be something that I don't want to have. Though the increase to the nobility power might be an issue. Can you tell us about the logic behind estate building decision making? So every possible building in every location calculates a utility value. They then pick semi-randomly with all the positive utility weighted by their utility. Primarily picking the highest utility all the time gets capitalist building AI behavior of Victoria 2, which is not good. So that's why we're getting a semi-random pick here. Yeah, the AI building in Vic 2 was it wasn't amazing. It's not amazing. And then here, do they build fancy chateaus with luxury goods demand after the first age? All we know is we'll learn to hate them. So I don't know, get your Venice games up and running soon, so you don't have to deal with so much nobility, and then maybe learn to hate the burgers instead. But moving on to the maps thread, what was added after I made my video on Friday was that next week we'll be looking at Anatolia, and there is a colossal thread by one of the people on the forum, probably longer than these developer diaries, talking all about Anatolia, and I'm sure that is going to be something that the devs will be looking at. But yeah, next up is Anatolia. That is awesome. And moving on, there we go. That's why he added it there. What we know, obviously, is that there will be some form of provincial naming system that bases itself on the culture that owns the province or is majority in the province. We're not sure which one they're going to go with yet, and I don't think they are either. But people pointed out that the Welsh provinces are named in English names, and that is because Wales starts with primarily English culture. But if a Welsh culture nation, which would be Wales that returns to Welsh primary culture, conquers the entirety of Britain, we'll end up getting something a bit like this, and this is wild. Honestly, it'd be very difficult to have this because I can't pronounce basically any of these. But things like Liverpool being translated to Lerpool, Birmingham into Broome. I think that's Birmingham. Actually, it's probably not. It's very difficult to really know what we're looking at here. But I kind of vibe with it. I want to do a Wales campaign, conquer the entirety of Britain, and then see this mess. But yeah, no, I love this, and I hope this is expanded to more areas of the map, because, I mean, quite a lot of it will be quite difficult to translate into the rest of the map, but, it would be really cool besides. Is the capital location of England Westminster or London? It is in Westminster. I had said Winchester in my dev diary, and that was simply a slip of the tongue, really. It is what it is. My bad, I guess. But yeah, Westminster is now the capital of England in 1337. Will there be reviving recently extinct languages such as Cumbric, Briton, and Pictish? No, not really. Though Hen Ogledd is a formable for Welsh culture, which is interesting. I have never heard of this, but I don't know. I'm sure other people have, clearly. What happens when there is a civil war? When a civil war combatant wins the civil war, they will become the original country. This is not imperator. We're not going to be game overed by losing a civil war. Since the new location system is based on primary culture, shouldn't the English locations be in their French form since England was ruled by the French dynasty at the time? Vile. England's primary culture is English. England's oppressors is the Norman French bastards. Moving on. I can't believe we rejected Project Caesar. Yeah, see, St. Dave had a lot of fun with this dev diary. Here is something that I had commented on quite a bit, actually, in my video about English being a monolithic culture in England, whereas I felt it should be split into Northern English, Southern English. And the response that he's giving here is the difference in dialects between northern and southern dialects of English are not as pronounced as the different French dialects. The changes in producing Middle English also served as a bit of a unifying force, which didn't happen in France. And 57 disagrees, so I don't know. I think maybe this could be changed if there was a little bit more of a push for it. I do still think pretty strongly that it would both improve gameplay and historic accuracy if there was a split. And I just think it'd be fun to then, playing as England, getting that unified culture later on in the game rather than starting with it would just be a better experience, I think. It seems like English is to be the second most dominant culture on Man. I wonder if it would make more sense to have it be Highland, given the culture of the locals was Manx and a Gaelic language. So the Manx are represented by the Gaelic-speaking Norse Gaels, who are the dominant culture on Man. In 1337, Galloway was still Gaelic-speaking, so there's a Norse Gael dialect and continuum from the Isles of Lewis all the way to the Isles of Man. Good to know. And St. Dave just reassuring everyone that everything is being read and they love constructive feedback. I love this one as well. Since CK3 in 1066, Ireland is feudal, how do they revert back to being tribal in 1337? CK3 isn't canon is very funny to me. 1066 is a start date in CK3, and they want to be as historically accurate as possible for 1066. But it's not canon, so I don't know, deal with it, I guess. A little bit of infighting between the various Paradox studios, it seems. Or it's only light-hearted ribbing, but at the same time, it's funny. Here, talking about the naming convention for the Welsh formable, that Oled, I've forgotten it already, and it was like 20 seconds ago. But saying, could it potentially be changed to Prydain? Much rather be the Emperor of Prydain than the Duke of Hennegled. It doesn't sound very formidable. True. And I agree. Prydain could probably be the Welsh version of the Great Britain formable. Sounds kind of awesome. And I guess Hennegled is if you conquer England, potentially. Is England just simply Europe's largest wool supplier? Yeah. That makes sense. There's a whole lot of sheep. And also going back to my video on the Tinto maps, and I was saying about, Ireland being more full of sheep than people. That's true today, but back in 1337, that was not the case. It was more cows. And livestock doesn't represent sheep. It represents cows and I guess pigs as well. Though I don't know how many pigs there really would be in Ireland in 1337. I know in modern times it's not actually that many. There isn't a big pork thing going on in Ireland, as far as I remember. So, yeah, mostly cows. Notice the thing, in both the province and the area map, the colour for the Orkneys is different from the rest of the Highlands or the Hebrides, and it refers to Northern Islands area. Does this mean that some areas can span different regions? Orkney and the area belong to it belong to a North Atlantic Islands region with a handful of others, which is certainly interesting. I assume Shetland's up in there as well. If Scotland would be big enough and annex Northern England, would it adopt the title Kingdom of Scotland? We only have the short name and adjective for each country in the localization, England, English, and then we generate full and short country names out of those depending on their immediate situation. So it could be called the Empire of England or the Supreme English Republic. Vile. Every country always has a long name, but we only show it on the map if the country is big enough. I like this. I'm looking forward to seeing all the different variations that you can make. Minor proposal, change the Empire of Root to adjective root empire. So you, for example, instead of Empire of Ottomans, it's the Ottoman Empire, or instead of the Empire of Persia, it's the Persian Empire. Sounds much better. In fact, that's exactly what they do in game. The example was just not very good. So, yeah, it'll be English Empire rather than the Empire of England, maybe. Are we getting dotted Lenitian? Well, I don't know what Lenitian is. Or will everything be modern orthography?
Orthography.
Conventional spelling system of a language. Okay. So all the Irish that they have in the game is a side project by St. Dave himself, and he's not an Irish speaker, so it's unfortunately going to be a lot of inconsistencies. However, most sources he's use modern orthography. How does dotted Lenitian work? I also don't know what that means. And how important it is for historical immersion? How weird would it be for Irish speakers unfamiliar with it? We avoid Middle English, for example, because it would be just too strange in most cases. I suppose that's fine. I don't feel the need, really, to have London, for example, being called Londonwick, right? That's a little bit older than Middle English, but you know what I mean. Like there is that gradual change from the naming system of various places throughout the ages, even for the same language. So having London be called its modern term of London seems fine to me. Though I would say it would be kind of fun if we did have that split in English culture, and then Northern English became like the dominant culture, having the the language of, or the orthography change based on that would be pretty cool, I would argue. Moving on to the next page of dev responses. For the meme potential, there should definitely be a playable McDonald's tag. The Lordship of the Isles are ruled by one Owen MacDomnall, John MacDonald. Wait, isn't that Owen? I know the Irish spell Owen like Eogan or something along those lines, but I didn't know that was John. Alright, my bad. I don't know. Does Westmoreland have only 2 locations? I saw somewhere here that you guys try to get from 3 to 6 out of it. Generally, locations across the same region need to be of similar size. If we tried to get 6 locations out of Westmoreland, they would be tiny. English merchants might as well ship their stuff around the English coast instead of across the Irish Sea, from which they largely would be shipped back to London and onwards. Undoubtedly, all sorts of considerations going on, but a market is surely more than a geographical feature, and I'd suspect historically English merchants on the western coast still looked more towards London than towards Dublin. It's exactly what I said in my Dev Diary video about the market system, that, you know, Liverpool would trade more with London than they would with Dublin. Consider the Dublin market to be more of the Irish Sea node. Merchants in Lancashire were certainly transporting things via the Irish Sea rather than lugging them up from South England by land. Sure, but even then, I'd say they were going into the Irish Sea and sailing around Cornwall to bring it to London. I still am not a massive fan of the existence of a Dublin market. Existing is fine, but I'm not a fan of it, like, taking over parts of Britain that would certainly more be trading with London than with it. But that's just me. I'm not a Briton, so I'll leave it to them to describe exactly how the locations ought to be partitioned, but I think at a bare minimum, major cities should be entirely within the locations whose names they provide. So in the case of Bradford, the example in his map that he made that doesn't get shown here, we would lose Bradford and have to replace it with a no-name village that nobody's ever heard of. In these cases, we have erred on the side of preserving more recognizable names. Okay, counterpoint, fucking Stockton. No one's heard of Stockton. They've all heard of Middlesbrough. Well, they haven't, because that's also kind of a no-name place. But Middlesbrough way bigger than Stockton. It just is. And more important places based on rough cardinal directions of the county, even if they're not satellite correct. Replacing Liverpool with 6 locations or Sheffield with 4 locations is not what we want to do here either. If we go too granular, the game basically becomes impossible to manage. And speaking of the granularity of the map, there was another Reddit post that I saw that actually I might be able to bring up. Here, this thread by Radioactive Bee, talking basically about trying to get a little bit more granularity out of Britain, because it definitely has less than what we see in the updated Iberia, it has less than France, and it has even less than the island of Ireland, which is a bit wild to me. But here we have, he goes through and he does every individual region with a lot of detail. And I gotta admit, I do like this quite a bit more. And he has, of course, even a lot of text to you know, explain why he had, like, this is all him. This is all him. I will put a link to this in the description below so you can go and read it. But I do vibe incredibly well with this kind of feedback. I loved reading this. But moving back to the forums. Since community seems about 50-50 split on the separating English culture, here's a sketch of how Northern English culture could look. It's far from definitive choice, just to extend the discussion a little bit. And I'm fine with this, though I don't think it necessarily needs to be called Northumbrian, and I would like it to be somewhat of a similar colour to English, because they are really bloody close. But I don't know, I feel like the divide should be more here instead of up here, but I mean that's also kind of fine. I'm pretty sure that's the Humber River going in here, but I would be fine with this, and this is the same color that the tag of Northumbria has in EU4. So I guess that's fine. But I would be totally down for this. I would like this more than the current situation. I'm not gonna lie. If he wins, will Balliol Scotland cede the southeast to England as per his 1334 homage? Yes, there is content surrounding Balliol's obligations to the English crown. Very cool. Can we have a topography map? Topography. Everyone wanting the bloody topography, and including the marshes as we had expected. Though, I'm not going to lie, I felt like there would be more marshes in the North Yorkshire Moors. I really do. This is very much... I feel like a little bit of a oversight, to be honest. Obviously got the marshes here, but yeah, I really thought there would be more here. But yeah, that is the end of the Tinto maps, and we will move on to looking at the Tinto talks, which was on the cabinet system. So, how big can you get your cabinet? 8 to 10 is the maximum size we're aiming for. In my video, I was trying to calculate the amount of ages, and in my head, I switched it out for institutions, and I was counting institutions. I arrived at roughly the right number. I think I said 10 to 12. But 8 to 10 at the maximum seems reasonable. Of course, the cabinets are characters that you put on into your cabinet that can then do a bunch of different jobs. I have seen posts asking if they can have titles. So, you know, you set your cabinet minister to do this job, and then he would get the title of, I don't know, Prime Minister or Foreign Secretary or something like that. But I think that doesn't really work, considering you can set a job for your minister, for your cabinet member, and then switch them to a new job, and then switch them to a new job, and they're not... I don't think it's really a good idea to have them be... I don't think it's a good idea to have them get titles in that way. Maybe in the parliament system that we have yet to learn of, maybe there'll be something there. I just don't think it works in the cabinet system. The AI doesn't have to be good at this, but please tell me we can automate these. Basically, automating the cabinet jobs out for your different characters, and it is not automated. Which I guess that's fine. Maybe a little bit of a shame for some people, but it is what it is. Will there be an option to hide characters? No. If you would like to do this, then you may have to use mods, and I still am planning on doing a dedicated characters video. It might take a little bit more time than I had anticipated, because there's a lot of opinions floating around there. There will be an option to execute all of the cabinet. Not planned, but sometimes you'll feel like off with their heads. It's not really informative in the normal sense, this comment, but sometimes you'll feel like off with their heads makes me think there is going to be some kind of events and such related to the cabinet, which will be obviously very, very negative, and you would want to get rid of these cabinet people. I know later on a comment that we will look at shows that some events relating to the estates, and they could potentially demand that you put their fella in your cabinet, so that would maybe be an issue if that fella is kind of bad with his stats. But yeah, maybe some negative stuff coming. Can we expel people from certain areas or invite migration from specific areas, or is it a blanket thing? Those are per province. I don't know which part of this he's asking about or answering. It's both. But inviting migration from specific provinces, I'm not sure about that one. I think it's going to be a case of you set your cabinet man into a province, and that is inviting migration to a province and then expelling people from a province. I don't think it's inviting from an area, right? It's not that way. Invite to and expel from, not from and from, if you know what I mean. If you get the effects of certain tasks immediately, like the Diplo Rep one, what's to stop someone from grabbing the modifier, completing what they want to do, and then switching to something else? Not all cabinet actions are instant in impact. It'll take a while to be effective. And there was further clarification that Diplo Rep is not the same kind of Diplo Rep that we have in E4. Maybe that will or could be renamed. Is there a cost to removing a cabinet minister, and can there be situations where we're forced to keep one? Yes, it costs gold to assign a new character, and it costs stability to replace a character. I would like to know if there is a cost to changing their job. That's really the one that I'm interested in, but I don't think I saw anyone ask that. How do we pick cabinet members? Are they a pool out of 3 like in EU4? And can we pick from every character in a nation like in Imperative Rome? So you can pick from any eligible character. If busy with other things, they can't, and some estates may be blocked from cabinet depending on various things. 45 cabinet actions is a lot. Can each cabinet member work on multiple actions at once? Not all are things you pick, and over 50% you will not see, as they are tag, culture, reform, or religion specific. And I already know there will be people seething about this. They hate tag specific stuff. Because, I don't know, they're weird. I don't agree with these people at all, and I think I will continue to bring up how strange and how in the minority they are. They should be ignored for their bad opinions. Will some countries have laws preventing heretics from accessing the throne, like France and the UK after the revolution? Yes. Will there be a Tinto talks about Parliament? Yes. Is 8 the number of members of your dynasty currently alive? This is, if we go back onto this, go to the first page, and we can have a look at here. 8 here is the number that they're talking about. Is that the number of people currently alive in your court? Yes, it is. 8 is how many eligible characters that can inherit the throne with the current inheritance laws. There'll be another comment about the that image in a bit. Is some people in the realm would want a certain position in the cabinet and we don't give them what they want, will they get a debuff like in CK3, or is the cabinet really a player choice for advisor? It's player choice in 99% of the cases. There may be events asking you to change them, but those are rather rare. And also, like, there is no character loyalty, so unless it's the estates being pissed off that you're not putting their guy in charge, I don't think there's going to be any kind of loyalty issues with that. You like the mechanics but hate the UI. I hope it's still placeholder. This is a big one. This is the style that they're going with. Classic style of graphics, but made so that they can scale nicely. That is, I think, the... It is not awesome, I will say. I'm not a massive fan of what we're seeing in the UI. Certain things that are pretty basic to think about, like this character here, his shoulder is obviously very sharply cut off, which I guess is fine, but it's also covering over the top of the military symbol here, which is a bit weird. The name King Edward III Plantagenet having no background, also a little bit weird. If you weren't aware that Edward was spelt with an R, it would be very, very easy to misread this R as an I, because the light reflection on his armor completely drowns out the roof of the R. Some kind of background here would be nice, but I don't know. I feel like there is certain areas where the UI could definitely use some improvements. The reason that they are doing it this way, with it being much more clean, I guess, is because it's easier for them to scale it for various sizes of different sizes of computer, I guess, or your screen. So if you've got a 1440 screen, it'll be much easier to scale this up to fit that, rather than, needing to use a really hacky mod to do it. But I definitely think there are still some issues that need to be worked out. And yeah, it's not there yet for me, I think. Classic style of graphics, but made so they can scale nicely. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not there where I want it yet. If I'm understanding this right, we'll only be able to improve relation with a maximum of 2 countries at once at the start of the game. No. Your cabinet members are not the people that improve relations with other countries. That is your diplomatic corps, which we have absolutely no idea what that is. If you use a cabinet on this, you'll just be more efficient, which is kind of cool. Will estates attempt to force a cabinet member on you if the conditions are met? If they have a lot of power, they may do. Good to know. More integration with various systems is always a good thing in my book. How exactly will develop province work in the context of the game? What will it do? It makes development tick up in a province over time. Do not think of development in the classic EU4 sense. That is not the case. We are not getting EU4 development. If you have played Imperative Rome, think of development like civilization value or civilization level. This is a value from 0 to 100 that will tick up over time, and the higher it is, the more population that province, location, area, whatever, can contain. That's sort of what we're getting here. The development will tick up over time through this cabinet system, which will allow a higher density of population to be in that location at any one time. And the way it ticks up without the cabinet doodad is based on infrastructure and buildings. We have yet to see much more. We basically need to see more about the building system. But what I'm imagining is various buildings will have an increase in development in their effects, potentially. What is development? How does it work? Can you talk about it yet? Or we have to wait? So eventually we'll talk about it more in detail, but development is a value in a location between 0 and 100, like I just said. Maybe I should have waited to say it until I've read this. That can increase over time if you build buildings and have high prosperity in a location. Venice is like 40% at the start of the game, while balls.
Ísafjörður. Ísafjörður.
Okay, I got it. Venice is like 40% at the start of the game, while Ísafjörður is at 1%. Nailed it. Got it perfectly. I just know how to pronounce things, clearly. So yeah, these are... Why he chose this, I'm wild. Anyway. But yeah, that is how development works. Build buildings, high prosperity, and you'll get higher development. Do cabinet actions start instantly after being selected? Yes. But the modifiers may scale up over time depending on your administration efficiency. And no answer to the second question. Can you assign people with roles, like a general, admiral, etc., to the cabinet and vice versa, or are they mutually exclusive? They can only have one role at a time. Can we help cabinet members to get better at their job, like you can promote advisors in EU4? No, it's not an RPG. Tacit admission that EU4 is, in fact, an RPG game. Also, how does developing a province work? Is it related to POPs? It's not related to POPs, except higher developed locations can sustain more POPs. How does expelling population work? Expel POPs to make people move away from one province. Gotcha. And here, it's sad to see diplomatic reputation return, since it's really meaningless modifier that confers magical benefits. It should only be based on the actual reputation, broken agreements and fair peace deals, etc., and not some guy sitting there with the diplomatic reputation task checked. Basically, call it diplomatic skill instead. Okay. Can the cabinet stop you from doing this if you want to? I think this is, can they stop you from going to war, potentially? Or negatively affect your goals in some way? No, this is not Crusader Kings. What made us choose, what made them choose 2 as the starting number of cabinet members? It felt good. While it may have felt good, I've seen a lot of people say that maybe it should have started at 3 because we have 3 stats for advisors, administrative, diplomatic, and military skill. So maybe it would have made sense to have 3 advisors at the start. I don't know if I agree with that. It is a good point, but we'll see. Maybe some countries will start with 3 based on their government forms and such. What I am wondering is whether there will be offices or positions of distinction within the cabinet, with the leader as the prime minister. There will be some relationship between the parliament and the cabinet. Yes, there is a head of cabinet title that can be given to a character, who will then get plus 25 efficiency to his actions. Costs money, and while making the estate he belongs to more happy, it also empowers them. Makes sense. I like that. Better than I'm doing this job, therefore I am called this job. Can cabinet ministers become problems? Can they say become hated by the nobles, leading to instability, or try to enrich themselves? There's some risks, but it's mostly through events. Fine. hoping that the interaction with the cabinet will be more than assigning an action every 30 years or so, and we can actually have the feeling of actually administering the realm. Looks great, though. You tend to want to juggle them depending on your needs a bit more often. How often, we don't know. I hope it isn't so often that it becomes, like, tedium, but also not too infrequent that it becomes irrelevant. So we'll see how often this ends up being. Are there any limits to how many people can be doing the same thing at once? Can I have my entire cabinet focusing on developing just one location? Nope, you cannot target the same province with the same type of action. Will flags always be a rectangle, or will there be other shapes, like Switzerland's square or Qing's triangle? Will they be possible? Only the same shape at the moment. Maybe that will change. Who knows? We know 1337 is the only start date, but will it be possible via modding? Just need a yes/no confirmation. In theory, yes, but it's not tested yet. Look, if modders will be able to do that. And is it possible to add other units than just the base 4? For example, some kind of major regiment for a fantasy mod. I wonder which mod. He may be talking about. And yes, there are no limits there. I love that so much. I think Anbana is going to have make much use of the lack of limits. Instead of just having infantry, you could have these are human infantry, and then a country that has a accepted both humans and say halflings in it can have human infantry and halfling infantry in the same army, in the same battle. It'd be so cool. I am a big Anbana fan. I'm not sure if you noticed. I'm looking forward to EU5's Anbana. Are there events linked to the actual role of the cabinet, like an imperator? There are events targeting the cabinet, yes. Will it cost monthly gold to maintain them? No, it's implying the cost of the court. Will that cost depend on age or skill? No. Can all cabinet members perform all actions? Yes, at the moment, but in theory it can be limited. What is the difference between control and pop satisfaction? The secret police may make sure that you obey the laws and pay the taxes, but they can't make you happy about it. Okay, makes sense. A bit worried about balance. How will you prevent snowballing if you keep adding cabinet members as the game progresses? You don't get more for being a bigger country. Yeah, it's basically the same as the theory behind mana. Just because you're a bigger country doesn't mean that you get more mana than a smaller country. Reality is that you can, because you've got more economy to pay for better advisors, and you're probably going to have more prestige because you can do more wars, so you can re-roll your heirs. So in theory, it was balancing mechanic in EU4, but in practice it just kind of wasn't. But here, yeah, that does seem like a bit more of a balance. Speaking of characters, will you as a monarchy be able to turn your heir into an admiral, like King Carl XIII of Sweden? Yes, your heir can command armies or navies, or even serve in cabinet. That's cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Looks like a lot of space for a throne room image that provides very little information. This isn't a 2D versus 3D issue, though it does feel like once invested the time, the 3D images, space used for images has increased. So basically showing off this thingamabob again. There's a lot of empty space here. This is where temporary country modifiers will live. I don't know about that one. That seems... just looking at your average EU4 game, maybe we're not going to get the same amount of... temporary government modifiers or temporary country modifiers as there, but I still think that's gonna fill up, and it's not gonna look great. I don't know. I don't need to see a throne room. Lovely art. I love seeing art, but I just don't need to see. I don't need to see it here. Historically, the French States General had a say in the state's diplomacy, etc. Will they be able to assert control in the king and the cabinet in Caesar? You don't play as the king, you play as the country. I feel like I need to bookmark this whole ass thing, because I don't actually know how to find bookmarks after the fact, so whatever. But yeah, this is something that needs to be reiterated so frequently because people don't understand it. You don't play as the king, you don't play as the ruler, you don't play as a character or a dynasty, you play as the country. That's why things like instant and manual control of your armies being possible is mandatory and expected and perfectly natural in a game where you play as the country. So yeah, no, this is huge. I mean, it's not something we didn't know already, but I guess it's something that people choose to argue against. I don't know. This has been known for a while. I don't know why people argue against it. This one bothers me. I have no problem tying actions to culture and religion, but tag-specific mechanics always feel unnaturally gamey and restrictive. Sod off. Also the type of thing that is most universally appreciated by our players. Yes, tag-specific mechanics are good, actually. Why pretend otherwise? They're not unnaturally gamey and restrictive. They make the game playable. The games that have fewer tag and culture and religion-specific mechanics are worse. Imperative Rome at the start had very few tag-specific mechanics. It got some eventually, but they were, kind of few and far between. And that game failed. Victoria 3 wants to pretend to be this whole simulationist fucking utopia. Probably shouldn't have swore there, my bad. Want to be this whole simulationist utopia where every tag can do everything, and all that leads to is people complaining, justifiably, that every tag plays the same. We don't want that. That's bad. Why are you wanting that for EU5? What's wrong with you? It's delusional. Like, I don't know how many people follow me that think this way, but I just gotta ask, what the hell? Like, please explain your reasoning for not wanting tag-specific mechanics, because I don't understand your mentality. It's just gonna turn into a worse game if people follow what you want. But yeah, if you are one of those people, I'm not gonna argue and insult you in the comments, but I would like you to write in the comments why you think that way, because I would like to know. But yeah, I don't know. I don't understand you. How is the cabinet size tied to the head of state? In my opinion, it wouldn't make sense for a German OPM to have the same cabinet size as the Ottoman Empire, but they will be the same. So I don't know. Deal with it. Those government tabs look great. This guy likes them at least. Excited to hear more. Curious about the values tab. Is that where the sliders are? Yes, it is. Please tell me there's ways to lower development. It's called devastation. Will devastation permanently lower the development or be more impactful than EU4? Yes, it will. Then there was a kind of a conversation about what development could be called, because apparently it's, I don't know, people are too EU4 coded and can't tell what, new game has a new definition for a term. So this guy suggested the word urbanization. Seems to fit more with what development attempts to be, but it only fits when you have a town or city. High urbanization, rural, pastoral, frickin' village. Not really working out there very well. Can cabinet members make demands like going to war? No, but the parliament might do. Parliament seems to be a lot like the agenda system in EU4. And, if they want you to go to war, maybe that's what they're going to want to do. Where do the characters for the cabinet come from? If it's one per estate, it won't be enough to draw from the estates in your dynasty alone, will it? Other places, some noble families that exist, etc. And then my question. Is there a default action that cabinet members can do if you do not assign them to something specific? No. That's, I feel like, a little bit unfortunate, because I am bad at utilizing my diplomats in EU4, and I feel like I'm going to be bad at utilizing my cabinet members. Have I ever seen a politician do something unless forced to? Yes. I kind of have. But it is rare. And there's the politicians that do something without being forced to, certainly not members of the Tory party. But yeah, moving on. Don't want to get too political. To the left of the Administrate 70 icon of Edward III, there is a button which kind of looks like a calendar. What is it? It shows the ruler history of the country. No more needing to go into the ledger to find that information. So I think that's kind of good. Is it an anti-snowballing mechanic similar to CK2 and 3? Would 20 OPMs grow the land much faster than 20 province empire? Yes. Makes sense. On the same level as there are ruler stats, there are icons of a knight from chess, a crown, and a star. Can you tell us what they mean? They are his traits. So knight could mean he is, the knight could mean he is a tactician, for example. That would make sense. The crown could mean he is a legitimate ruler. Think of the plus legitimacy trait in EU4. And the star could mean he's, I don't know, he's just awesome. You know, he's just a really cool dude. The 3 symbol, does that mean his country is of rank 3, a kingdom for monarchies? Yes, that's true. Which, rank 3 in EU4 was empire, so that means we're at least getting one more rank between, you know, kingdom and duchy, and something in there, maybe something lower than duchy, perhaps. With the increased granularity, that would make sense. Is there a loyalty mechanic between characters? I see you have the can you trust Sir Robert thing here, but nobody had figured out the reference. But the reference was then about Robert Artois. He betrayed the French overlord, moved to England to serve Edward, and people claim he was instrumental in starting the 100 Years' War, and he got a pretty bad reputation for it. But yeah, no, that's what the reference was. Can ruler's wife and husband join the cabinet? In some cases. Will we have advisors like in EU4? Will the cabinet completely replace them? No. I feel like the no is to this, not to this. But yeah. And this is, again, going back to will 20 OPMs be better than one big country? It's not really accurate, though. The USA, for example, would be unfathomably poor and less developed. It was blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Gameplay and balance is far more important. And I'm not... Yeah, America's just a whole other thing and completely not relevant to 1337. Deal with it. Moving on, will there be a role of the Prime Minister and Chief Advisor? Yes, that exists. We already learned about that. Will there be a role of the Prime Minister and Chief Advisor? I just went over that. I don't know why I had it 2 times. My bad. But that is the end of the stuff. We went lower than 50 minutes this time, which is rare for a Tinto Talks Responses Talks post. But yeah, going back to this map because it's gorgeous. I'm kind of happy with what we've learned today. There is been some information that I have liked, some information that I haven't especially been too keen on, but overall I think that what we've learned here has been pretty decent. I still want to see Northern English culture, Northumbrian, also fine to call it that, but I do think it would be better if it was Northern English and Southern English so that you can unify it later in the game. Because if you have just got English, then it's like in the South, then you are more subsuming Northumbrian into English rather than unifying them. And I think unifying them is a more accurate situation to have. But yeah, I'd like to know what you guys think. So please leave some comments in the comment section below with your thoughts on this Tinto Responds post. And yeah, like the video if you liked it. And if you want to keep up to date with all information coming out of Paradox Tinto with Project Caesar, then hit the subscribe button. I will see you on Wednesday for a new Tinto Talks where we'll be looking at migration. I'll see you then.